Hey everybody, Sandro here. Just wanted to give you guys a quick message to let you know that we were supposed to do our episode for Last Action Hero this week, but because both Ben and I got sick, we're going to have to delay that till next week. What we're going to do instead is we're going to share with you our previously unreleased pilot test episode that we did for a movie called Never Too Young to Die, starring John Stamos and Gene Simmons. Originally, we didn't release this episode because we were messing around with remote recording and the audio wasn't quite there. Of course, my microphone broke down and I had to use a gaming headset. That's kind of Murphy's Law for a first episode. So enjoy that one this week, and next week we'll get back to our Last Action Hero as previously announced.
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K. That kid is back on the escalator again.
Pain don't hurt.
Is my boomstick!
Game over, man. It's game over.
Welcome to the Bargain Bin. He is your host, Ben Mason.
And he is your co-host, Sandra Luketic. And today we are talking about 1986's Never Too Young to Die.
Stargrove.
Remarkable young man.
Thank you.
You know, there are from time to time some small assignments.
The new American hero.
Go!
Where have you been shooting lately? Libya?
Find this disc. You mean the one that your father sent?
He inherited all of his father's enemies. And just one of his friends. John Stamos is Stargrove.
Hallelujah. I think I'm falling in love.
Vanity is Danja.
Give me the disc!
Any idea who could be behind this?
Ragnar.
Gene Simmons is Ragnar.
Yeah!
Trade a wet kiss for this?
The sting of death.
We're hot. Where the red starts turning into the blue main.
I'm impressed. You really are Stargrove.
Excuse me. Oh, shoot. Stargrove.
Blanche Stargrove.
The only one standing between life and death in a brave new world. Stargrove, never too young to die.
I think we should do it again. If you're listening to this episode, we assume you've already watched the movie. So I'm going to jump right in here, man, and ask you what you thought of this movie.
How do I answer that? Do I answer that as if I'm watching the movie and analyzing its merit and qualities, or if I'm watching it with a group of friends to laugh and critique and just goof around with?
Give me the short version of either.
The merit? No. That's my review. The merit? No. Because I will say, the first time I watched this with you and Josh and possibly Alex in your apartment, I had a blast. There was a lot of laughing. There was a lot of mimicking weird quotes. And for that, it's a very high quality, easy recommendation. Watching it again by myself in that environment to kind of just assess it a little bit more critically to talk about it today, it was a bit of a slog to get through, to be honest. I had to...
Really?
Yeah, there was some scenes, especially, I'm sure this scene will come up, but the seduction scene, where I had to pop it into 1.5 speed, man. Like, I could not sit through it at regular pace. And part of it might have been because I knew what was going to happen next, and that, that anticipation of not knowing what's going to come up sometimes keeps you a little bit more invested in it. So I can't pretend like that wasn't a factor, but I really had difficulty. What about you?
As a standalone personal viewing, I have seen this 3 times now.
Oh my God.
I really enjoy it. Watching it with like a group of friends, it's definitely 100% a party film. But watching it alone and just being able to sit there and take it all in without having anybody else's comments, you realize how much of a mess this movie is. But it's a mess because it's made up of absolutely amazing parts and absolutely terrible parts that they just kind of like tried to mesh. It's like they tried to mesh two movies together unsuccessfully. And I really think it's because they had two different writers, and it's not listed as them being co-writers like they had written it together. I think they took two versions of the script and combined them.
Okay, three things.
Mm-hmm.
One, I commend you for watching this 3 times.
I like it.
2, this movie had 2 writers, let alone a writer.
Yeah.
And 3, can you explain what you mean by 2 movies that they tried to meld together? Because I only got an attempt at a adolescent, teenage, whatever you want to call it, James Bond. I didn't see a second theme critique. Like, I didn't see a second movie trying to be melded in there.
Okay. Yeah, sure. It did have 2 writers. One, I'm not very familiar with his work. The other, Stephen Paul, did the Baby Genius movie franchise, so it's a lot more family friendly. And there's certain parts of this movie that look like they were doing the new James Bond for the American teen or early 20 something.
Okay, I got that. That was very obvious.
But it was over the top violent in parts. And then you have that mirrored with dialogue that starts off pretty brutal and then ends up being almost neutered. Like, there's so much gunplay in this movie.
It's interesting that you say that. It's interesting that you say that. I know I'm cutting you off, but when I was watching it, now that you say it, I click in on all the gunplay, and I definitely knew it was there, but I never thought of it as feeling out of place for a James Bond movie until you just brought it to light, because we don't normally see that kind of blood and gore, do we?
No, there were so many squibs, and like, if somebody got shot, you saw them get shot. More often than not, a bunch of times.
Huh.
But then you've got scenes like the right-hand man to Ragnar, Pyramid, pull a gun on Vanity and say lines like, "Fork over some Ram K, bitch, or we'll tenderize your butt." You're like, okay. So you start off super aggressive and call her a bitch, and then say, "We'll tenderize your butt."
Okay. Does that guy look like a regular human being?
No.
That like, I don't know if roids were involved. I would put money on that they were. But the first time I saw that guy walk on screen, I was like, what did they do? Carve out a life-sized, like, action figure? It was shiny, plasticky, didn't look in proportion to a human body. That threw me off.
It's also his only acting credit.
I can see why. See why. Can I touch on a word that you brought up when you were going over your description? And it's actually kind of bringing me back to a conversation we had previously off mic. You said mirrored. And that kind of made me think of how you mentioned there was so many mirrored scenes in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One,
get into it?
I'd like you to get into it. But 2, could you also, while you're getting into it, tell me what you think that meant for the movie? Because to me, I definitely noticed it. I know near the beginning when there's the mirrored scene between his gymnastics competition and his dad's spying, that there was a lot of similar movements. But to me, again, like the violence, just felt like a throwaway. It wasn't highlighted in a way in the movie that it made me feel like it was relevant.
Okay. I can easily cover that, and that's just my own view on this.
I can easily cover it. That's you, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I got it. So Lance Stargrove is played by John Stamos. Drew Stargrove is Lance's father and played by George Lazenby, who's the only non-European actor to play Bond.
Okay.
This is obviously an attempt to start a Bond for American 20-somethings. So every mirrored scene, whenever something happens to this old Bond, it happens to the new Bond. When you see the scene of Drew Stargrove taping up his leg, you see Lance Stargrove taping up his wrist. When Drew falls over the railing after being shot, Lance falls off his rings doing his gymnastics routine.
Mm-hmm.
Before they shoot Drew, Ragnar's telling Drew to hand over the disc that he had stolen.
The Ram K.
Drew says it's in my left pocket. Oddly enough, points to his right pocket. No one addresses that. But one of the henchmen then reaches into the right breast pocket, and this contraption bites down on him. At the end of the movie, trying to get away from Ragnar, who has Lance pinned to the ground, Lance bites Ragnar's right breast.
Huh.
Yeah, it's weird things. I really saw it as them trying to pass the torch through visuals from old Bond to young Bond, but they did it so infrequently, and have three grouped together at the beginning of the movie and one at the end just kind of seemed unbalanced.
Well, and to me, maybe I'm not as trained in viewing these things with a more critical eye. When you have something like that right breast pocket with the father within the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then Lance Stargrove does the bite within the last 10 minutes of the movie, I'm not putting those two things together. It's been ages.
Yeah, agreed. And that's why they should have either done it more, or had one at the beginning, one at the end, and one in the middle.
Yeah, if it was called back on a few times, then maybe there would have been a little bit more of a tendency to keep it in the front lobe and be prepared for it, be anticipating its application. But otherwise, it was two things that happened, and quite far apart.
Mm-hmm. How about we get into the characters a little bit?
Okay.
What did you feel about John Stamos as Lance Stargrove?
I like John Stamos as an actor, but it felt like he was very green in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like a lot of the times the lines that he was delivering weren't delivered with the proper tone for the context at the time. Like,
agreed.
He fights off the two guys in the house where he kind of comes to, and they're the two over-the-top 80s punk guys that are trying to, like, shake him down for information. And, like, he's threatening them, but he's smiling, and the inflection in his voice is something that would be a little bit more positive and cheery. But you got to think, this is a kid who is in high school, which to me, right, like, very inexperienced, very untrained. Like, to our knowledge, he only has gymnastics training, no hand-to-hand combat, no firearms handling, just gymnastics.
Yeah, he picks that up really quickly.
Picks it up very quickly. But, like, he's in the situation where it's like, okay, if I'm supposed to empathize with the character by putting myself in his shoes, for the first time in your life is being threatened. You're being attacked. It is a fight or flight situation. Why is there a smile on your face?
I think I can answer that.
Please do.
He acted the exact same way with the two wrestlers at the beginning of the movie. And I think it was supposed to show us that he can be confident, but he won't flinch. Although those two guys destroyed that sink with his face.
Yeah, see, like, this is a very like, I get the parallel there, but the intro scenes with the two wrestlers were very high school, just kind of banter. There wasn't a real threat here.
No.
The situation where it's like, again, you're fighting for your life for the first time, especially at such a young, immature age, and you are not just confident, you're kind of cocky with that. And I found that not just with that scene, that's just the example that I came up with, but there was a lot of times where the lines that he was delivering were fine, but the tone and the inflection that he was using was a little bit off to me.
Yeah, agreed. Also, the fact that he knew how to use so many different types of weapons without ever having been shown.
Can we talk about his high school status?
Sure.
Like, he is, for no reason at all, in high school. Because, to me, if he's going to be in high school, it should serve some sort of plot purpose. It should be a narrative device of some kind. But the fact that he's in school never comes back, and it just makes me wonder, like, yeah, how is this high school kid shooting people in cold blood, completely fine with it? Like, there's no, like, even adults in movies who get, like, their first kill are shown kind of taking on the weight of that in their shoulders. They're struggling with it. There's an inner dilemma of morality versus, instinct. And he's just doing it. Like, it doesn't matter. And then there's the whole statutory aspect of it, right? Like, why make him in high school if it's going to serve no purpose but to highlight the fact that it doesn't make sense?
Yeah, I'm not really sure if he actually was in high school. The only place I found where it said that was on the IMD plot summary. So this could be a college.
Didn't we see it?
Really
wasn't
isn't
it
that much better?
Wasn't it in the description on the back of the movie case though?
I've never seen the movie case.
I
I could easily see it being college, but I could also see him being able to do what he does because he is a, quote, Stargrove.
See, college would make a little bit more sense to me because you're still going to have dormitories. You can still create that feeling of isolation from his dad at the beginning, right? Kind of more of an abandonment because you have to live in the school. It makes sense because his dad has to go travel the world to be a spy, so he can't have him in a regular school. He's got to be there. It makes sense for him to have a roommate that is very technically inclined, although if that kid was in high school, he's just a certified genius, right? For what really. Like, this is what I mean. Like, it could have just as easily been final year of university.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have still been a little bit tough to swallow some of the aspects. Like, again, your first kill, you'd think that you're going to reel somewhat from it. But the high school part just makes it, well, first of all, kind of creepy what he does with his dad's partner.
That is creepy, yeah. You also have to keep in mind it's the 80s, where it was always about, the manly action hero.
See, I found that there was a little bit too much of that 80s action hero masculinity attempted. Like, the jokes that he makes with the wrestlers at the beginning are clearly, like, homosexual jokes. There's
pure
the
homophobia.
Yeah, there's the line when he's in the final confrontation with Ragnar, where Ragnar says that I'm half man and half woman, and I forget the exact wording, but Stargrove says, yeah, but you're not a full either, and I'm all man. And it's just like, it's like that same line could have been delivered in a way that it wasn't so overtly masculine, right?
And
like,
that's why I think it was two movies put together. It goes hand in hand with the fork over some Ramcade bitch.
But that's, like, if you're going to do a tongue-in-cheek parody of the genre, do a tongue-in-cheek parody of the genre.
I agree, but I don't think that's what this movie was supposed to be in one script, and that's exactly what it was supposed to be in another.
Okay, well, I feel like I've been a little too negative. Can we talk about a positive?
Sure.
What do you think was the best performance in the movie?
That's kind of a tough one. Vanity, I think she played the role perfectly, if not a little slightly overbearingly creepy towards John Stamos.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I love Ragnar.
We don't know how old Vanity is supposed to be in the movie, but she's clearly not a student anymore. She's been his dad's partner for a while, and she does have a love scene with him.
Yeah. Well, Stamos was 25 when they made this, and she was 27, so that's why I also kind of lean more towards the whole college thing. And I'm pretty sure Vanity's, or I guess, her character named Danja, her parents were friends with Drew Stargrove. and he had saved them, and something happened to them, and then she decided to work with him, almost as like an understudy.
Well, I mean, I can suspend disbelief while I'm watching the movie because visually they are similar ages and it does look like they would go together. But then after the fact, when I'm like, well, hey, yeah, he's supposed to be so young is where it comes into play. Honestly, when watching the movie, it wasn't as big of a deal.
Yeah.
You had mentioned Ragnar, and I want to support you on that one. I think that Gene Simmons was probably the highlight performance of the movie.
He was okay. Stamos looked like he was trying really hard. Vanity, this was one of her first movies, I believe, so she was obviously trying hard too. That came across. George Lazenby has been acting for years, so he was just doing what he does. Gene Simmons looked like he was having a full-on blast.
Yeah, that's the impression that I got. Like his character, we can go into his character a little bit further, but
Sure.
Just on the surface before we do, I want to say that regardless of the material that he was given, he looked like he was having a blast with it. Like he might have been the only one that was in on the joke, right? Like he saw the tongue-in-cheek aspect of the movie and was just like, all right, you know what? If I'm going to commit my time, if I'm going to commit my resources to this, I might as well just have a blast with it. And it kind of speaks to his professionalism that he threw everything into that role.
Oh, yeah. Seriously, like, I can imagine him reading the script and being like, okay, so my character used to be a spy. Now is a hermaphroditic lounge singer, gang leader of a band of Mad Max rejects. And I'm trying to poison the city's water supply, but I can't do it without a computer disk. And I'm only doing this for money. I'm in.
Like, when you read that on paper, why? Why any of that?
Yeah, none of that makes sense.
Doesn't need to be a former spy. Doesn't need to be a lounge singer. Doesn't need to be a hermaphrodite. It could literally just be a gang leader who wants to make money.
Yeah.
Like they overcomplicated it to the point where it's like it's lost its, what's the word I want to, like it's lost the weight of it. It's lost the substantiality of it because you just went
its 80s.
Well, it was acceptable in the 80s.
Well, I'm saying, like, if you take all of that shit out, you could make that movie today. You leave that in, you're going to have a hard go.
But again, even in the 80s, if he was just, again, a gang leader who was trying to make money,
yeah,
nobody was going to be like, hey, wait, where's the token hermaphrodite character we were expecting when we walked into this? Right? Like there's so many things, like touching back on the high school age of the main character, the hermaphrodite aspect of the villain. There's just no reason for it. It doesn't come back to the plot in any way.
Yeah, that's true. I do want to go back, if you don't mind, for 1 second.
Sure.
To the scene where you're talking about how Stargrove was fighting the two gang members in the farmhouse.
In the farmhouse, not in the... Because I was talking about the fight scene in his father's house, but we can definitely talk about the farmhouse.
No, that was his father's house. The father's secret office was underneath the bed in that house.
Okay, I thought you were referring to the farm where we saw...
No, not the barn.
Okay,
but
okay. No, my bad. Go ahead.
After they destroy that sink with his face,
mm-hmm.
they give him several punches, throw him through a table, and whip him repeatedly. And this is where he doesn't stay chipper and everything. This is okay. Sorry, I'm thinking of a different time. My apologies. But after he is whipped, he just starts crying on the floor, and you actually see him actually broken there. Then he sees that smashed photo of him and his father, and then goes full badass.
Mm-hmm. So why did you bring that up?
I was just thinking about what you were saying about how he's always kind of smug, and I could have sworn there was a part where he was actually destroyed mentally or emotionally.
Well, remember that scene, because that's going to come back a little bit later in this podcast. I promise you that.
Okay.
All right, Ben, before we go any further, I want to interlude with a little bit of a segment that I've come up with called Sandro's Top 5 Sound Bites.
Yes.
No, I'm not afraid. Try again, I'm not afraid.
So that's number 5. You tell me, Ben, touching back on the delivery, the emotion of John Stamos' acting, no, I'm not afraid. Try again, I'm not afraid.
Yeah, that was really bad.
All right, so you ready?
That was very cardboard.
All right, you ready for number 4?
Sure.
This one, I will actually say before I play it, when I told you to remember that scene later when we get to it, this is the one, okay? Because this is right after he fought off those 2 guys after he was crying on the ground.
The name's that scumbag at Stargrove. Lance Stargrove.
That's just him accepting who he is.
Come on, he brushed off that emotion very quickly, and he's got the sideways cocked smile. Like, that is just too much to have me believe that he's accepting the emotional gravity of what's taking place.
2 different scripts.
All right. Okay, you ready for number 3?
Yep.
So what'll it be?
How about a lube job?
Ooh, I think I'm falling in love. If the grease is for you, honey, I'm buying.
Tell me your thoughts on that one. Come on.
That was pretty rough.
And there's 2 above it still.
Oh.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, number 2.
Poison the water supply. I'm gonna poison the water supply. For gold, for ransom, for jewels, for money.
He is the reason to buy this movie.
I mean, that line, I believe we saw in the trailer as well.
Yep.
And that has got to be my favorite Gene Simmons line in this movie. And it perfectly puts on display what is good and bad about this movie all at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. As soon as you see that line being delivered, you know what you're in for.
Even the laugh, like, it is comically villainish, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's there's not enough to be said. All right. Time for number 1.
Fork over some ram-cave bitch or would tenderize your butt.
I was so mad at you when you brought up that line earlier because I was like, that's going to be a spoiler for what I have planned later.
But it's just so great that her reaction to that is, what?
So that is Sandro's Top 5 Sound Bites for Never Too Young to Die.
There is one scene, for me anyway, that really felt out of place in the movie. It just didn't seem to work, and I don't understand why it was necessary storyline-wise.
I'm keeping that in there.
I can't win them all, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I call it the Einhorn is Finkel, Finkel is Einhorn moment.
I think I know exactly which one you're going to say, but go ahead.
And they started off in one scene and finish it a few scenes later. But it's the introduction to the Agent Carruthers character.
Okay.
They had him really backlit when he was in the base or the office with the other military personnel.
Well, that's
so you
not.
couldn't really see him.
Didn't we meet him earlier when he was in the car with Vanity?
That was after, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you see Agent Carruthers backlit, and you can't really make out what he looks like. You're like, okay. But then you just hear him speak in Gene Simmons' voice. And you're like, okay, we know what's going on here. We know he's in a disguise. And then you just cut to another scene. You're like, okay, when is this going to come up later? This is a shock reveal that we already know is going to happen. They spoiled it already. And I'll get back to that scene after I talk about one of the most awkward scenes in a movie I have ever seen.
Okay.
It's at the farmhouse. It's Vanity and John Stamos in a super creepy, flirty, fruit-filled hose wash bathing suit sex scene.
Is this the worst seduction scene in a movie ever?
Yeah,
Like,
I think so.
like, I'm pretty sure that first time we watched this, we couldn't stop making fun of the fact that the method of seduction was to just fill up on fruit.
Well, she comes out onto the deck, I guess, in a pretty revealing bathing suit
Yeah.
and starts pretending to like she's getting ready to tan. She lays on her back, she rolls over, she takes her top off while she's stomach down. The whole time, Stargrove is out there watching her and trying not to watch her, drinking a Perrier. She flips over, he leaves, comes back, starts chewing on an apple. She moves again. He goes back inside, comes out, and starts eating a peach. And then she's hosing herself off. And then it's sexy times.
I actually have to correct myself now. After hearing you describe that, I'm feeling a little flush. But okay, let's go
What
back.
was surprising? Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's go back to the whole high school thing. What high school guy is going to be able to ignore that? What high school guy is not going to be interested? I don't know about the fruit part, but I mean, if there is a attractive female wearing a very revealing swimsuit, taking off the top, hosing herself off, like, yeah, like that's it. There's nothing else to say. Yes.
Yeah, of course. But it was just done in such a weird way. Like, it was so uncomfortably creepy.
I think it took too long. The time that he spent eating the fruit, going inside, coming back, eating another piece of fruit, it's like, why are we dedicating so much camera time to this when the attempt at chemistry between the two is already relevant, it's already present. There's no need to extend this to watch him eat fruit.
And I think this is also gives my two script theories some weight. Because he's being kind of wholesome on his end. And you know, like I've seen other movies where like a younger guy sees like a femme fatale and he's like attracted to her but embarrassed about it, so he's kind of shy. I've seen that a few times. But after the hose scene, it just cuts to him like slamming her down on the bed nude. But it's like a weird anime tri-cut that they used twice. Also providing the only nudity in the movie, which I found very strange.
I don't see the problem here.
Oh, I'm not complaining. It's just, it was the 80s, I understand.
But you said they're trying to make him look wholesome.
And that's why I'm saying this movie is very confused.
Because if they're trying to make him look wholesome, the fact that he is unable to resist, even though there's an extended period of time of keeping himself restrained, he still ultimately subdues himself to his emotions. So it just highlights the fact that they tried to make him wholesome and failed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think they took elements of two different stories and tried to like figure out how to piece them together. Like the scene settings were all the same, but what happened within those scenes was different. And they just kind of
like there was a separate one where she was just sunbathing and they were like, oh, we can't have him just watching her from through the window. Maybe we should throw in some cuts of him actually being out there so it's not as creepy.
Yeah. Well, I think more so it could have been something like that was happening and then they heard the army trucks coming down the driveway. And that immediately cuts off that scene but shows the interest they have in each other. The sexual tension.
Yeah, but it's an 80s movie, so there has to be a sex scene.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need to have a hermaphroditic lounge singer, but you have to have a sex scene somewhere.
Agreed.
All right, well, I mean, but they do hear the trucks coming, so I think that takes you into what you were alluding to earlier.
Yeah, the creepiest reveal that Ragnar is actually Carruthers, or Carruthers is actually Ragnar.
I gotta say,
Finkel is Einhorn.
I gotta say, man, you made me feel bad though.
Why?
because you were talking about how obvious it was and how everybody knew it and how everybody saw it coming, and I didn't. Because no, no, I didn't hear Gene Simmons' voice when Carruthers was talking. Maybe I don't know it well enough, but I didn't see that coming. And when I was watching the movie, I was trying to figure out, is he Carruthers or did he disguise himself as Carruthers in this scene in order to kidnap them in the... Don't laugh at me, man. Like
Carruthers all the time.
I didn't know. I didn't know. That was the only thing I guess the movie tricked me, is they got me.
But that really creepy laugh what he does while he's pulling off his fake beard.
Oh, the imagery of that scene, regardless if you knew that the very well hidden secret was coming or not, the cinematography on that was done fantastically. When he takes off the facial hair and you can see that, you know, he took off the sunglasses and he has the eye makeup on there. Like, that scene was done very well from a visual standpoint.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And again,
it's not incompetent filmmaking, it's 80s filmmaking.
But I mean, again, it feels like all of the best scenes that we can allude to in that are revolving around Gene Simmons, his presence on camera, because again, like I said, that laugh, that kind of over the top delivery, but without being completely cartoonishly outlandish, is what lends itself so well to these scenes as well.
Yeah, I agree. But I think you have to keep in mind too that John Stamos didn't really have a whole lot of acting credits to his name when this came out, and definitely not Vanity. But he's been acting over the top since the 70s on Kiss stage shows.
Yeah, but I mean, that's at the same time, isn't that where, say, a director should be stepping in and guiding the actor, saying, hey, you need to put a little bit more emotion in. I know that it's, you know, it's John Stamos' first credit, but that's why you have the abundance of behind the camera crew to help guide that along, isn't it? Or am I wrong on this?
No, you're right. But the director has only really done TV. He's done a few films here and there, but he's definitely used to directing TV actors, which obviously we know John Stamos went on to be, and sadly Vanity never had a chance.
I mean, John Stamos developed quite the resume for television acting. You know, it's obviously you have to get your sea legs somewhere, but if you and I, who have never directed a movie, are seeing that scene and we know what sort of emotional gravity the intent of the writers is for that scene, we can see, oh, hey, maybe you shouldn't be so smiley right now. Like,
yeah.
Maybe. Sorry, go ahead.
I get the vibe that Stamos and Vanity were giving the director what he wanted. Like, Stamos delivers line, good, I like that. Vanity, good, I like that too. That was great. Simmons does his bit, and the director just kind of looks around and he's like, was that good? Anyone? Yeah, we're keeping that. Okay. Cut.
All right. Maybe I, in general, which is a conversation outside of Never Too Young to Die, am putting too much credit on what I expect from a director then.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is there anything else you want to talk about in this movie?
Just more about some of the line delivery from Simmons. Like we were just talking about his creepy laugh and him taking off his fake facial hair and the sunglasses and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The fight scenes on the dam where Lance has the upper hand on Ragnar. Simmons gives the line, once it's been programmed, you can't deprogram it. Don't you read spy novels?
I actually really like that line.
I like that line too. And then followed up with, Lance, you can't hit a woman. You beast. You savage.
But this is the woman that's like using her nails to stab people in the throat, who's trying to poison the water supply of an entire city. It's like the irony, the jest is just, that's what's the highlight of these like lines.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I don't know, it's a movie stuck in time for sure.
I mean,
I'm okay with that.
even if you're watching it in the 80s, you have to accept that, like something like the spy novel line, something like the juxtaposition between, right, the actions of the character Ragnar and the lines that are being delivered. Even you would be like, oh, hey, I see what they're doing there.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Who knows what you'll find? You may like it or not, but all that you find, boy, is all that you got. Stargrove, flying like you've never flown. Stargrove, running to a danger zone. Stargrove, are you gonna stand alone? Stargrove.
All right, buddy, it's time for second interlude. This time we're doing 6 degrees of separation trivia. You think you got your thinking cap on for this one?
I was not expecting this, but I'll give it my best shot.
I should be butchered just for saying think you have your thinking cap on. But... Okay, so here's how it's going to happen. We're going to do 6 degrees of separation. You need to connect Never Too Young to Die with Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. There is 4 movies in between. How we jump from them is a bridge of one actor in that movie to another movie. I am going to give you 5 minutes to try and figure this out. I will also provide you any hint that you want, even if it's as blatant as which actor is this to get to the next step, if you feel like you're not going to make it any further, if you get what I'm saying here, right?
Okay. All right. Okay. I think I got this.
Okay. So I'm going to give you, like I said, 5 minutes from Never Too Young to Die to Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. There is 4 movies in between.
4 movies?
Yep.
Oh, God. Got it.
Shut up, you do not.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
Robert Englund, who plays the tech guy for Ragnar, was in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
Which had Johnny Depp, who was in Vanilla Sky, with Cameron Diaz, who was in Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
Okay, so you did it in less than 4 steps, because clearly that's not the one that I had, but you did it even better.
It didn't take 5 minutes.
Okay, first of all, I'm very impressed. Can I give you the very difficult road less traveled path between the 2 movies?
Sure.
Okay, so I start with Vanity was in Never Too Young to Die, who was in Action Jackson with Carl Weathers, who was in Rocky 3 with Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was in Suburban Commando with Christopher Lloyd, who was in Back to the Future with Crispin Glover, who was in Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
Yes, he was.
So you did it the much easier way. I'm going to think of a little celebration tone here, but I am...
Oh, wait. No, I messed it up.
Oh, come on. You can't... After I gave you the reveal, you can't...
I did. It was Robert Englund was in Nightmare on Elm Street with Johnny Depp, and I messed it up.
How?
It doesn't work.
But he
Somehow
was... But
yeah,
Johnny Depp
he
was in the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I know he was. But I forget how I jumped from Johnny Depp to Vanilla Sky. I think I confused him with Tom Cruise for a second.
Oh, come on, man. Oh, I was so ready to praise you there.
I ruined it.
I didn't even question it, too. Like, I'm like, Vanilla Sky? Sure. I'm
There's
sure.
got to be some link between Johnny Depp and Tom Cruise.
Well, I mean, you connected Johnny Depp and Cameron Diaz, right?
No, I connected Tom Cruise and...
No. What I'm saying is you said that Johnny Depp was in Vanilla Sky with Cameron Diaz.
Which he was not.
That still works if Johnny Depp and Cameron Diaz ever did a movie together.
That's true, but I don't think they did.
Okay. Well, we're still on the 5-minute timer. So I'm gonna... What?
All right. Let's see.
Like I said, you went very quickly with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying there's still a possibility here that you could think of a connection between Johnny Depp and Cameron Diaz. I don't know how many steps it would take, but maybe a couple?
Yeah.
See, now I feel inclined to try and help you because I don't know the answer for this, but I want... Well, no, I'm being honest. I think I want to try and find a way that this connects.
Yeah, me too.
So Johnny Depp, like I don't think they've ever done anything together, but if we can find one common actor that they were with in a movie, right?
Yeah. I wonder if any of the Pirates movies would work with Orlando Bloom.
We'd have to know if Orlando Bloom was in anything with...
Yeah, I don't know about that. Who's in Elizabethtown?
I do not know. You are the one who is the expert here.
Oh, I'm not looking anything up, so I'm just trying to remember. I feel like it was Orlando Bloom and Cameron Diaz, but I could be very, very wrong about that. Is there any way of linking Johnny Depp to Jim Carrey?
I don't think so.
No.
And unfortunately, the time has run out.
Damn it.
So
that was a surprise. That was a tough one, but you got it. I did not.
Well, yeah, because I looked it up online before I came up with the question. I didn't just pick two random movies and say, hey, put these together. But I guess this is where we could ask for some audience participation. If anybody listening can think of a connection between Johnny Depp and Cameron Diaz with no more than one step between, because I don't want to make too many movies, pop it into our social media on Twitter at BSBargainBin or on Facebook at facebook.com/BSBargainBin. All right, so that's our second interlude over, one that I would say went very well.
So embarrassing.
So before we call it a day on this episode, our first episode, why don't we leave our listeners with our closing thoughts on the Never Too Young to Die movie that launched John Stamos into the stratosphere?
Yeah, I really enjoy this movie. It's far from perfect, but it's 100% enjoyable. The acting can be stiff at times and absolutely amazing at others. The direction, much the same. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy watching it on my own. I understand it's probably not, great for everybody's solo viewing, but definitely if you're going to have a few friends around and a couple of beers, throw it on. You'll have a great time.
I mean, I mirror that very closely. It is definitely not one that I can recommend anybody watch by themselves for any reason other than you're obligated to do so for a podcast or you owe a friend money. I don't know. But as a group, the first time I watched this movie, I did have a blast. Gene Simmons is definitely a highlight. If you're a fan of Gene Simmons and you do want to see him doing something that's a little bit outside of what you would normally see him do, yes, he's very outlandish in other things, but in this case, it's a different kind of outlandish, then I would recommend watching it. But other than that, it's a hard recommendation.
Fair enough.
All right.
We'll agree to disagree.
Sure. I mean, we both agreed that it was a good movie to watch with other
We'll
people.
We'll agree to disagree.
All right. We'll agree to disagree until the next episode. Thank you for spending your time with us.